This video is about Zendaya. No introduction necessary, no last name needed. Now, I'm not delusional or parasocial enough to believe that the snippets of the pop culture icon that is Zendaya, that we get to see through media, is any measure of the actual person that she is. So as a disclaimer, I do not know her, and neither do you, so just not get weird. For further context, I'm also not the person to go through for pop culture anything. No, I don't know about so-and-so, I'm sorry, I am not aware of such and such, and as is true to my admittedly contrarian nature, I don't really care to know either. The last thing I was aware of from the pop culture zeitgeist was the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni strangeness coming from the set of It Ends With Us. As I've said in a previous video, I have read and despised many a Colleen Hoover book, but It Ends With Us was one that I actually really enjoyed. The point is, I don't keep up with pop culture. However, whenever I do hear things pertaining to or about Zendaya, I get a strange and inexplicable feeling of pride or happiness for her. I don't usually care about the static noise of Hollywood, but for some reason, the Zendaya signal is one that always gets through to my stubborn little brain. So, though I don't know Zendaya the person, Zendaya the pop culture icon is someone that I have enjoyed and even admired since her Shake It Up days when I was a little teenager myself. And that's what I want to dive deeper into. What is it that makes me so adore her, root for her success, be inspired by her poise, and even, admittedly, yes, root for her relationship? Most importantly, how can I take what I learned in studying the icon and apply it to my dark fantasy graphic novel's main character, Wysteria?
It's not different. You're gonna gain weight. I'll be fine. A bite or two won't make me fat. Hey, you're already fat. I can't stand you.
A term that came to be back in 1956 by researchers Donald Horton and Richard Wall. Yes, even that long ago, audiences still felt a connection to TV and radio personalities that talked more casually to the audience and, inadvertently, cultivated a relationship where people thought they actually knew the real media personality. The two aforementioned researchers put a name to the phenomenon, and parasocial relationships were actualized. But, quite frankly, this video isn't really about exploring the mental health benefits or ramifications of parasocial relationships. Nor is it about the way technology's exponential evolution has cultivated the way these relationships form. This part of this video is to explore the psychology behind why these bonds form. And why do these bonds form? I'll have a simple sentence to summarize at the end of this section, but before I say, I want to show you how I got there. From what I understand, there is a hardware and a software reason that parasocial relationships form. See, I'm going to use computer terminology because I learned back in my 9th grade IT class that brains are computers. So, to continue, the hardware of it all relates to the media equation. It's a theory I just learned of, proposed by Byron Reeves and Clifford Nass. It basically outlines that our computer brains actually haven't caught up to the present digital age. Logically, we know that there is a screen and multiple layers between the person that's talking to us in a YouTube video and what we're seeing. However, when through that YouTube video we are, quote, looking someone in the eye, end quote, or, quote, face to face with them, end quote, and that person is sharing a vulnerable story or is making us laugh, it still feels like an actual connection, no matter how logical you may be. These bonds are formed using the same exact neural pathways as real life bonds are formed. There is no dedicated section in our brain that filters live streamers out from the person you shared a desk with in biology. So that's the hardware. And if hardware is how we see and how what we see registers, then the software is how we feel and the social rules we play by as a result. Because the bond formed through engaging with media personas is the same as the one formed with real-life friends, these social heuristics, intimacies, and consistencies that are used to deepen the formulated bond are what results in the age-old phenomenon that is parasocial relationships. So why do these parasocial relationships form? I promised you a to-the-point answer, after all. They form because our human mental hardware can't differentiate real life from screen life. The personal stories, hours binging a channel, and interactive live streams cultivate the bond within our software and our silly little brains, which results in us being unable to tell the difference. Awareness also doesn't change the problem either. Womp womp. So, if you're thinking, I knew that, congrats, but you still probably suffer from it anyway. I'm sorry. Of course, blame the boom of technology and not yourself. It really can't be helped. Not yet, at least. Especially not when a certain person, whether you actually know them or not, are just so dang likable.
Who is this man? He is you. I love you.
You're probably aware that if someone is more likable, you may try to interact with them more often. Think of your crush or your very best friend. The same goes for media personalities. The more attraction points they accumulate to you, the more you seek that person out. Their shows, movies, interviews, and red carpet appearances, to name a few. And I don't just mean physical attraction, though that definitely plays a role. I also mean social attraction and task attraction. Social attraction meaning how much you feel like you guys would click as friends. Think of that age-old question, who would be your dream dinner party guest? That question is basically measuring who you're most socially attracted to. And task attraction, meaning how much you value their expertise, ability, or skill set, their mastery in a field, and how much that may or may not matter to you. I say may not matter to you because this doesn't just apply to liking someone or positive attraction. After all, I hated the character Joffrey in Game of Thrones. I actually almost had a party to celebrate when, spoiler warning, I guess, he finally died. Now, I wasn't one of those weirdos who hated the actor himself, who was a child at the time, mind you. Shame on some of y'all. But the character? Yeah, he was very real to me, and I very much despised him like he spit in my soup. So, strong negative attraction across the three measures can be just as effective as strong positive attraction when it comes to forming parasocial relationships. I mean, did you watch Game of Thrones and also hate Joffrey's guts? Or is there some other character you love to hate, or even love to love? Leave them in the comments so we can parasocially hate or love them together. Back to the topic at hand, what on earth does any of this have to do with Zendaya? Well, hold on. You can get back under your blanket after you refill your water bottle, and I'll tell you. After all, we both know you haven't drank enough water today. Zendaya has, in no fault of her own, fueled our software's longevity need when it comes to parasocial relationships. Remember how I said I've been enjoying her media presence since our Shake It Up days? I looked it up, and that's since 2010, which was when I was 14 years old. I am now 29 freaking years old. That's 15 years of me being aware of the multifaceted star. Now, most parasocial relationships suffer a breakup after 2 or 3 years. Shoot, most real life relationships do too. And I just want to go on a tangent to thank the Lord above that the man I prayed for proposed to me last year, and we're going on 5 years together of our forever timeline. But even if I was just marginally aware of someone's existence, so let's say hearing about a very accomplished relative that lives in another county, I would still feel like I have some semblance of a relationship with them, no matter how distant or strange it might seem. Zendaya is also seemingly a down-to-earth person as far as celebrity personas go. Seeing her interviews and fan interactions make her seem like she would be a good person to hang out with. So, there you go. I feel like that's the social attraction box checked. Zendaya is also extremely skilled. I cannot imagine the hours and dedication she puts into all her crafts to be the woman she is. As I've stated many a time in this video, I admire her. Dancer, actress, producer, fashion icon. She is in the same realm as Donald Glover in my book. Multi-talented, multifaceted, and Black. Yep, I said it, and as a Black person myself, I love to see it. I love to see people that look like me doing so exceptionally well. Especially when I was always told growing up that Black people couldn't have that kind of success, and if they did, it was God's blessing, luck, blood, sweat, and tears all together that caused it. But that's a different video. Although it does tap into that feeling of pride I touched on. As a Black woman, seeing Zendaya win feels like I'm winning too. My brain sees her as part of my group or my tribe, and thus when she succeeds, the entire group succeeds. Blame it on the tribal mindset that is inherently human. Further research describes this mental gymnastic routine as berging, aka basking in reflected glory. Berging is why when, say, the Lions beat the Bears, all the Michiganders say, "We beat the Bears," although all we did was sit at home eating cheese plates and pickles. That tribal pride that brings Michiganders together is why that "we" pronoun is the word of choice. Back to the topic at hand, another tick for task attraction. And finally, physical attraction. Now, I am not saying you have to admit any kind of romantic attraction to Zendaya. After all, that's a married woman, so be respectful. However, I would not be so insecure or obtuse to refuse to admit that Zendaya is a stunningly beautiful woman. Oh my gosh, she is just so dang freaking pretty, and she's stylish, and she's elegant, and she's gorgeous. Yes, I have no issue gassing her up. She's so inspiring to me and my pursuit of personal style and social grace. Without further turning my eyes into hearts, I can confidently say she ticks off the physical attraction part of the Parasocial playlist. So, to answer my proposed question at the very start of this video, what makes me adore Zendaya so much? I've been aware of her for 15 years, and I find her talented, relatable, and beautiful. Okay, cool. So we have an answer to the first part of this video. And though I love that I can more fully understand our personal weirdness with parasocial relationships, what does that do for me or you in totality? Where's the beef? And how can that help any of the indie creatives that are watching this video and subscribe to my channel? Because you are subscribed, right? Well, by understanding Zendaya's allure, we can understand how to make a character that people care about and potentially obsess over. Hi, by the way, like this video to let me know you've gotten this far. So like I said, I myself am working on my own indie graphic novel project. It's a dark fantasy called The Lost Land Sage. Volume 1 is published. Chapter 5 is currently being released every other Sunday on the home site, and I'm working on the script for Chapter 6. As I'm working, I'm also slowly starting to realize Wysteria kind of sucks sometimes. But I'm wondering if I can use Zendaya as a means to ensure that though Wysteria might, maybe, a little bit suck, she's still worthy of adoration as well. You be the judge and tell me at the end of the video if I succeed. See, when it comes to a flawed protagonist, Wysteria has that on lock. As the main character of a dark fantasy, as opposed to an epic fantasy or romantasy, that's to be expected. But she's also my sweet baby bee, and I want the world to like her, you know? So let's explore how I can take my psychoanalysis of why I like Zendaya and apply that to Wysteria as I continue the creation and publication of The Lost Lane Sage. So why do I say Wysteria kinda sucks? Well, for one, she's somehow turned into an impulsive liar. I understand why, of course. She isn't really living by the book, per se, and wants to protect her peace, research, and pursuits. Sometimes, to her, the easiest way to do that is to tell lies. Now, maybe that's relatable to some people who grew up with strict parents or strict guidelines for their life. Lies just tend to come easier than truth. There's also a part of her personality that manifests as eavesdropping, the curiosity part of her. See, she wants to know everything she can to better shape her worldview, all in a pursuit of capital T, truth. Sometimes, it's easier to know what a person truly thinks when you can hear what they say without the awareness of an additional pair of ears listening. And maybe that's relatable too. Maybe that makes her down to earth, her little flaws, personality quirks, and how they manifest. Maybe that's what makes her a whole, quote, human being, end quote. After all, so many people do support women's rights and women's wrongs. Or at least, I'd hope so. But there's also this connection that comes with knowing Wysteria is a liar as a reader. It becomes a fact that she lies to everyone within the world of the story, except for you, as a reader, who will always know the truth. Thus, a sort of bond begins to form, not only in knowing the truth of her lies, but also in sharing in the truth of her character, flaws and strengths included. You become Wysteria's only true friend from the very moment she first appears in the prologue. You, as the reader, become the only one who knows the real, honest, and raw Wysteria. It makes her vulnerable, it makes you in on the secret, and maybe it makes people like her. You can tell me in the comments. Does that check the social attraction box for you? Would you want to sit at brunch with this magical red-headed witch? And she's not all bad either, okay? I want to caveat. As you'll see more in Chapter 6, she really cares about the people she has in her life and even strangers she interacts with. She may be self-serving, but she is by no means, in any way, selfish. She'll go out of her way to help a little boy in need, even if she ends up eavesdropping on him and his dad a couple pages later. Okay, enough about social attraction. There's one part of this parasocial equation I know our homegirl Wysteria does very well. Okay, the woman is skilled. She was the top witch in the academy, aka college, and would have retained that title if she committed to the coven, aka witch military. She's an elite researcher and is the only witch in recent history who will rediscover the other and how to get there. She puts countless hours and spares no physical expense, for better or for worse, when it comes to uncovering answers. It's admirable, if not detrimental, her dedication to her goals and the pursuit of knowledge. So does that tick the task attraction box? I think so. And then physical attraction. Now, I want to tread this lightly because I'm not trying to invoke Rule 34 on my own characters, but I do think Wysteria has some attractive traits to her. She has an understated nature, but a boisterous passion. I also, personally, love redheads, and I think her deep teal dress complements her coloring well. She's not got a standard protagonist hourglass figure either, on purpose. Okay, I've always purposely tried to give her more of a pear shape when drawing her, and I think it's beautiful. Side note, I think more diverse bodily representation in media is a must, especially indie media. So I want to list it out for you guys. Not just skinny hourglass, but also not just athletic hourglass, and not just chunky or fat hourglass shaped woman. Okay? Not everyone is an hourglass. We need different figures. I think Wysteria is beautiful. Without doing too much, I think she draws focus on every page and every panel she appears on. It's really no wonder that her academy rival and longtime bully, B, can't stand her. So personally, I'd say she checks my physical attraction box. I'd feel too weird asking if she does for you though, so we're just gonna leave that alone. I think after understanding what makes a person or character likable, through understanding how I see Zendaya, I can successfully navigate the portrayal of Wysteria as I continue the planned 10-volume series that is The Lost Land Sage. And if you've read the story up until this point, and time is still an issue keeping you from loving Wysteria as much as I do, after 10 volumes of seeing her beautiful mug, it shouldn't be much of a problem anymore. Stay curious and suffer the consequences. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!